In order to create discussion for the creation of desert gardens capable of meeting the needs of desert dwellers using species from the deserts of the world, as Bill Mollison had dreamed, I have taken multiple clips from Bill Mollison's Design Certificate DVD course, which can be found at tagarifarms.com.
Never been done. This is one of my unrealised aims in life, is to grab a lump of dryland Australia with dunes and stuff on it, go out there and turn it into an amazing garden. And I don't think I'll ever get around to it. So, deserts can be misused. If you've got a lot of it and put cows on it, that's all you're ever going to get off it. Cows. And then you've got to get inside them somehow to eat them. So you can make up a very intensive food production system in deserts just by combining the classical foods of 3 or 4 deserts. I think it would be a lot more complicated than a tropical garden, and would probably outproduce it. The desert is a source of a tremendous amount of really good trees, shrubs and forbs, and are all very different. And the Australian desert is a seed desert. It produces vast tonnages of seed, a high protein seed, and they're mainly tree seed, and for the main part they are acacia seed. But the Kalahari desert doesn't have a lot of seed plants. It's got a lot of berries, about 16 very nice berries. And what it does have, it's a bulb desert. Kalahari, with honey bears wandering over it and trees and things, but the food is down below the ground. And this one that I put down here, a metre down, it's that big. It's a big bulb. And it's on this that most of your berries grow. The big one is a bean called the marama bean. And when it rains enough to soak down here, which it does once or twice a year, the marama bean comes up and it covers about, the vines cover about half an acre. The beans are this long. They have about 3 large beans in each pod. And it represents a vast harvest of protein. We have one very similar thing in Australia to the marama root mass. It's a true yam, a Dioscorus, and a bulb is bigger than me. And the Aborigines find it in dry times just by really subtle crack signs on the surface of the sands. But it got away from Africa for sure, because Africa's really got all the bulbs. Oh, out in the Kalahari, there's a tree, a large tree, sits on dunes. It's a staple food of Bushmen. It has a large nut about the size of a walnut. It has a dreadful Latin name. I think the specific name's Rautenii, I think after a German botanist. I can't think of the genus. Boers call this tree the makeri. There's a very good reason for that. Other groups call it the mongongo. And the real name of the tree is mkwankwa. The marula is being grown in Australia now. It's one of the valuable African fruit trees. And you get amarula liqueur. And it has a strange stone. It has 3 locules and has a long nut like that. And if you press the nuts, you get a oil much better than olive oil, and it lasts. It has a life about 10 times out of olive oil before it oxidizes. So it's a really good cooking oil. And the fruit's beaut, it ferments as it falls. Quandong. It's one of the few fruits about that, nuts about that, which the nut, you can eat the nut, but you can sell it in the shell for checkers. And the fruit and the nut are both edible. All sorts of stories about quandong. Quite a nice tree. It's got a parasitic habit when it's young, so you always plant it in a pot with what are those pretty little daisy-looking things? Bright things. Gazania. Plant them with a gazania or a little bit of anything with the grass, and it hangs onto their roots till it gets old enough to stand on its own. Gazania is good because it pulls out around the quandong and stays quite a long time. The other good thing to plant is large leguminous trees. All the better if they are also periodically deciduous. Now, all sorts of trees come into this. Honey locust is a great tree for the semi-arid areas. Mesquites, the mesquites. If you go to America and you want to do a barbecue, you've got to use mesquite charcoal. The flowers are excellent, so you get good honey. And then it has pods, which cattle love. Most of the mesquites are very salt tolerant and drought tolerant, and they're the only things I know which grow on salt pans, providing you haven't got much more than 6 inches of salt. You can dig a hole and put a mesquite in and it grows. In northern India, the farmers have mesquites, not by accident. They know what they've got, and they'll say to you, if you want to grow crops here, and it's pretty dry, you have to have at least 30 mesquites per hectare. And you can put 25 or 35, but if you don't have them, your cropping slowly winds down and ceases because there's no nitrogen in the soils. So that's a very good start to the edge of arid lands, is put 30 or 40 leguminous trees per hectare. You've got a bit more than that in Lebanon. Where are you now? Jordan, so you are. How could I have forgotten that? Our noble King Hussein came. Yeah. So in Jordan, they've put a lot of legumes in along the swales. Now that does all the nitrogen work, and also puts down a lot of leaf. So the other thing about a way to improve your soil is to plant the right trees. The trees that add a lot of humus to your topsoil, that add essential nutrients, may specifically add nitrogen, which is sort of rare. It's a very large number of the trees and plants on the desert go from large cuttings. What do you got in Mexico? Yes, cactus desert. And there are over 400 cactus varieties that have been in cultivation at least 3,000 years. The most expensive fruit on the planet is cactus fruit, the pitahaya. So you're setting up a nice garden here, aren't you? You've got trees from Central America and giant cacti. There's saguaro, but there are bigger cacti than saguaro, and they all grew in forests. And then there's thousands of other cacti, and many of them are ancient cultivars, and you can eat both the pads of the cacti and the fruits of the cacti and the ground seeds of the cacti. They're excellent food. And then you have lots of other small fruits. and berry fruits through the deserts, and now you've got this underground garden so that you can look across parts of the Kalahari and you know there are thousands of tonnes of nutritious root materials there. Right, now before we leave deserts, I want to stress that if you go to 7 or 8 sorts of deserts, the Sonora is a cactus desert. As soon as you go into the Chihuahua desert, you see yuccas, but they are arborescent yucca. They look like trees. Last thing, just to polish it off, if you look in the garden of the women of the Kalahari, the Kalagadi Gardens, you'll find a melon growing. And it's huge. A melon that she's growing, they're too big to get your arms around, and you can't lift them up. And that melon's called the Marotsi melon. Now, what are they? Are they delicious food? Not much. It hardly has a taste. It's chock-a-block full of innocent greenish pulp. It's water. They contain, these things contain 8 or 10 gallons of water. So there you are, you've grown your water. Sure. Now, let's just restate something to finish off the drylands. The drylands are very rich in resources, in adapted animals, adapted large trees, adapted shrubs, adapted grains, adapted bulbs. And by carefully assembling from all the water deficient areas of the world, you can build a fantastic food system, and you never have to irrigate.
Okay, so there you have it. I'd be very interested to know what the berry varieties are that grow in the deserts. Perhaps we can assemble a more complete list of the species and put together a garden that Bill Mollison could be proud of.